If you're not following up with your buyer, you're not going to find yourself closing a lot of deals. In sales, we also say money never sleeps. If you perceive yourself as being a nag and you're in sales, you're in the wrong business. The best thing that you can do, pick up the phone and say, hey, Kyle, I got your email. Do you have 3 minutes to chat? We can walk through these questions.
Your prospects aren't ghosting you. You're ghosting them first. I'm Kyle Racki, CEO of Proposify.
I'm Evan Santa, Vice President of Sales.
And we're talking about what's working in sales right now. So what did you observe when you joined the Proposify team?
For lack of a better term, a lot of passive behavior. And what I mean by that is, as an inbound model and having a lot of inbound interest day in and day out, a lot of sales reps can fall into the trap of essentially having a call with somebody, providing that information in, say, a demo environment, and then sending an email follow-up, and then kind of not doing that much afterwards, because then you move on to the next call. And sales reps can fall into a bit of a pattern where they feel like they're doing a lot of work because they're talking to a lot of people day in and day out. But in reality, if you're not following up with your buyer, you're not going to find yourself closing a lot of deals.
I think there's a lot of confusion about follow-up. What makes good follow-up? When do you follow up? One of the things you observed was sometimes these follow-up emails after a call were going out 3, 4, 5 days later even.
Yes, absolutely. And with all the sales teams that I've built and led, I've always instilled a policy of same-day follow-ups. That's what we call it, same-day follow-ups. And in sales, we also say money never sleeps. And the idea is sometimes you are going to have to put in some additional hours into the early evening in order to get those same-day follow-ups out. Why is that important? The information right now is relevant to your buyer because you spoke to them today. They need to get that information and that follow-up, that package essentially, into their inbox as quickly as possible. If you wait 2-3 days, you're too late. And one of the biggest indicators of failure is when they email you first to say, hey, can you send me that information? Now you're already playing from behind.
Yeah. This actually happened to me once when I was cold called, or I was actually cold emailed about a solution to a problem that I was actually actively looking to solve. So it was highly relevant for me. I got on a call with the sales rep, and he showed me the solution, which was perfect for my needs. It was around managing chargebacks. And basically I said to him, where do I sign? Get me the pricing, I'm ready to buy now. He could have one call closed me. Instead, what he said, and this wasn't really his fault, it was the fault of the business and the process that they had, was he said, well, I don't send proposals myself. It's actually done in another department. It's done in the operations or the finance department. So Janice from accounting will send you a proposal after this. Now, 3, 4, 5 days pass. Now we're into the next week, and I still don't have that proposal in my inbox. So now I'm following up and chasing this rep, and he's saying, okay, I don't know what happened. It should have been out by now, and he has to go follow up. That's a bad process, but also what it did was it almost cost the deal. If I hadn't wanted the solution so bad, it would have. But the thing is, buyers can lose interest really quickly.
Right.
And people forget that when they come in hot, if you don't close it as quickly as possible, they will start to get distracted and move on to other problems.
Well, and here's the thing as well. I've always held the belief that when your buyer is looking for a product or solution, they're not just looking at you. They're going and looking at your competitors as well. So this is where you can outsell the competition. And I love lazy sales teams when I sell against them, because a lot of times we win deals not just because our product may be superior. I mean, we might have a competitor where their product is superior to us in any business, but you can outsell them just by driving more engagement with your buyer in following up promptly. So what I mean by that is, in your scenario there, you very well could have had the conversation with that sales rep, asked for a proposal, basically saying, take my money. And from there, they don't send you a proposal, but what do you do as a buyer? Well, now you're engaged about this product or service. So what do you start doing? Poking around Google. And from there, you find a competitor. Well, you go and start to talk to that competitor. And if they follow up quicker, you might very well sign on before they're even able to get a proposal in your inbox.
Yeah, speed matters. Now, what a lot of times reps struggle with is this feeling of I don't want to be a nag. So maybe there's the first email goes out right after the call. Hey, here's all the information that we sent. This is the information you're looking for. But what happens when now the buyer hasn't gotten back to us and they require a little bit of nudging to kind of re-engage?
So the first thing that's wrong here is, if you perceive yourself as being a nag and you're in sales, you're in the wrong business. Sales is about being a resource to your buyer, not being a nag. So if you think that you reaching out to them to get alignment with your buyer as to whether or not they want to either just continue the conversation, to continue to evaluate your product, again, you have to rethink that.
What are some of the things that you might say in a follow-up? You know, you always hear this this saying, I guess, on LinkedIn of like, every email has to contain value. It can't be a, hey, bringing this to the top of your inbox, all those sort of tired expressions that people say. You know, what are some things that you can do to lead with value, but really what you're also doing is just nudging them to say, is this still important?
Oh, this is one of my favorite relevant topics right now. Everybody's using AI in order to build call summaries. And as a buyer myself, in joining Proposify recently, I've evaluated a lot of technology. Every single email I can tell the platform that it came from, because it essentially is taking a call summary and then just spitting out what I told the sales rep. I know what my problems are. I know what my priorities are. So why are you listing that out to your buyer? It's completely irrelevant for me to get a summary of, hey, Evan, these are all the things you told me. So why are we doing that? What we should be doing is we should be sending an email that says very concisely how my product can help you.
Okay, so where I think a lot of reps struggle sometimes is to know how long, how much time should go by where you haven't heard from your buyer after that first initial, hey, we just had a call, here's what I heard, here's why our product, you know, is the right solution, whatever that follow-up email looks like. Now a week's gone by or 3 or 4 days have gone by, you haven't heard back. What are your next steps?
Well, first and foremost, this is where effective discovery is important. And of course, discovery never ends. But that being said, you have to first understand the urgency of your buyer, right? You're going to have, no matter what you're selling, you're going to have buyers who say, I need this yesterday, now, or you're going to have buyers who say, you know, we're just starting to start to do some market research on what's out there for us for next year. So first you have to understand that, because that's going to lead you to the right decision of how urgent you should be with your follow-ups to match your buyer's cadence. But it is very typical to have a buyer who, you know, you send them the information, call it a typical buyer around their timelines and urgency. They need it now, but they're not in a massive rush. The question is how often should I be hitting them, right? And when deals, as we say, when deals go cold. Again, you cannot think of yourself as a nag. Rather, you have to think of yourself as a resource. And if you are a true resource, you have to make sure that you're providing value and information in each of your touch points, and that you're also making very clear as to why you're hitting them up again, why I'm sending you another note, Kyle. And a lot of times, again, it should be anchored on alignment with your buyer. So the best thing that we can do is say, hey, Kyle, you know, I know that you were looking at us and looking at a few other solutions, and now we're coming up to the end of the year. I would assume you want to get something in place prior to January.
Right. Using their timelines that they gave you, right? So if they said, we want this deployed by the beginning of the year and it's December, well, then they have to make a decision soon.
That's right. And you can keep them on track with that, because when somebody's at the beginning of a month like December, they think they have all the time in the world, and then weeks go by, and before you know it, things are getting pushed to the new year because they only got halfway through their to-do list.
Right. So here's the thing. Emails are very easy to ignore. What other channels should a rep use other than email?
We used to say about 5 years ago that email inboxes were cluttered. Well, now they're just broken. So one of the things that I find so wildly obvious, but you got to check on your team and make sure that they understand this as well, is that in sales, you got to get on the phone. It's really that simple. But the problem is that especially when you take a group of young professionals who are a little bit earlier in their career, and say anybody under 30, they have lived in a world where text message wins over phone. So a delayed communication wins over phone. And you think about this in how you communicate or how you communicate. And it's the idea that most people are going to text before they pick up the phone. You do this with your friends, your family, with your coworkers. You're going to always default to that text message method. Now, when we send an email or a text message, you're allowing your buyer a moment to think about their reaction. So the best thing you can do is pick up a phone and break that pattern, create a pattern interrupt to essentially call them. One of the most effective scenarios where you can do this is when you have a proposal out to your buyer and they send you an email to say, here are 5 questions I have before I move forward. The innate reaction is to type out the answers to those 5 questions. But the best thing that you can do is to essentially pick up the phone and say, hey, Kyle, I got your email. Do you have 3 minutes to chat? We can walk through these questions. Why is that important? It's the idea that if you answer Kyle's questions, you're going to get reactions to those answers. You're going to be able to understand, is he satisfied or dissatisfied with the answer to this question? And a lot of times that comes from a simple, or, and then you can dig in and understand how to overcome a potential objection.
Yeah. There's this big, we've been almost trained by Zoom now that you can't get on a call with somebody unless it's been in a calendar, it's been scheduled.
Right.
And it's like almost breaking that mentality with a lot of reps who realize like in the old days, we used to just call people. We didn't have it wasn't baked into our calendar that we have that call.
That's right. As a salesperson, you're the resource to your buyer. So I'm going to be calling you. I'm going to be in your face answering your questions. And again, that is one of the best indicators is when somebody comes and they have more questions, because again, they're trying to get to that definitive decision that they want the product. So I'm going to call you and I'm going to deliver information at lightning speed to you rather than an email that you have to now walk through because I typed out 3 pages of information.
All right, so let's just wrap this up with a couple of takeaways. As soon as you have that initial call with your customer, get back to them with an email the same day. Don't wait 3 or 4 days. They've already kind of forgotten who you are. Don't use AI summaries to summarize that call. They already know who they are. They know what their problems are. Hit them with the actual value of what you provide, why you're different, why you're worth considering. And third, don't just rely on email, especially for nudging your buyers after a few days have gone by. Use the phone, use it early and often in the sales process. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the subscribe button to get more like this. Also be sure to check out Proposify.com if you're interested in getting your proposals out faster and more professionally to your buyers. That's what we do. So check us out and we'll see you next time.